I think I look older without the glasses than with them on. I don't know. Maybe I'm imagining things. Um, put it in the description, but I think especially with I don't know YouTube videos in general and YouTube lives, no one's reading the descriptions. First of all, I apologize for not having a live stream last week. I can finally say I feel like I'm over that flu that I was fighting, but when I was trying to queue it up on that Sunday, I was sitting there just like trying to churn through the topics, and I really couldn't think of what to cover. So rather than forcing it and doing something just to do it, I feel like after doing a dozen of these, I don't need to prove that to myself. Um, and just to make sure that quality of content is out there for people who do want to tune in, who do want to go through the archive. I just really didn't think I could do anything substantial. But this time, since I have a teaching demo coming up this week where I need to be covering phrasal verbs, figured we can kind of go over that. Could treat this almost like a practice run of what I might do on that teaching demo day, but also maybe what I say today isn't going to be anything that I cover on that day because it just comes out in the delivery, the dynamic of having students in the classroom that always changes things. Me, even when people are tuning into the chat, just trying to talk to this void in general, people who might tune in later, it's a really difficult type of thing to do. And especially me switching to doing these lives on the phones, just staring in the mirror, talking to myself is a really strange thing to do. But okay, phrasal verbs. What I want to say, if you don't know phrasal verbs, you definitely know basic verbs. Verbs are the action part of any kind of sentence, right? So, what are you doing? Could be really physical, running, jogging, driving, swimming, jumping. Could be, I mean, it's still physical, reading, talking, listening, those type of aspects. You pair your verbs with your subjects. Okay, that's basic grammar points. The thing about phrasal verbs is basically you take a verb and you pair it with a direction or a preposition, and it kind of takes on a completely different meaning. Some cases, there's no different meaning that comes from the verb. It's just very much literal. So here's an example: bring. So when you bring something, and let's pair it with the verb, with the preposition up. Okay. In the literal context, bring up. Let's say we're on the second floor. Hey, can you go downstairs and bring up the boxes that have my name on them? So we're taking them and we're bringing them up. That's very literal. What's going on, Logan? Yeah, freestyling here. I don't know how well I'm going to be doing, but I appreciate you swinging by. Hope your Sunday's going good. Freestyle is a verb too. So bring up, in that case, that's not really a phrasal verb. But if we talk about, let's say, two people are in an argument. Logan, they're being very kind and nice here, but what if Logan is arguing with me and I say something unrelated to what we're arguing about? Maybe we are arguing about freestyling. And I say, Logan, well, why are you driving that piece of crap car? Why are you driving a beat up Honda? Okay. And Logan says, why did you bring that up? Why are you bringing that up? So why are you talking about that? Why are you reminding me of this thing that's unrelated? So in this case, bring isn't taking something physically anymore, right? We are bringing up. That's a phrasal verb, to remind, to discuss. So that doesn't really have a direct association with the word bring, right? This is what we're talking about with phrasal verbs. Let's maybe switch over to the one that I think is a lot easier. So we have the verb look. So we're looking. Look means to see, right? So if I say look up with the direction, if we're like literally looking up, that's not a phrasal verb. That's being very direct and literal. But if I say, oh, I don't have my phone on me, but can you look up the directions to the restaurant? Cat's going crazy with the zoomies there. Sorry. Look up in this case is to research, right? The mic quality on this phone, whenever I go back and review these VODs, I think is pretty good. Yeah, man, cats. It's very possible at some point, if these zoomies keep up, they're going to run up and jump behind me, but we'll see. Okay. Anyway, look up, check, to research. That's what we're talking about. If we say look over, so if directly, literally, if I'm looking over my phone, like if I have it really close, I need to look over. That's not what we're talking about. If you're taking notes and look over the last chapter, look over last week's notes, look over means to review. Okay. So if you're in a situation and you think, oh, look over, and you're so focused on the direct, the literal case of what's being discussed, you're missing out on that additional meaning. I don't know if we should even call it the additional meaning. It's like the new meaning. Like you should almost treat phrasal verbs like they're a totally different type of vocabulary, right? So look over means to review. That's in a lot of times, in a lot of cases with English where there's contradictions and exceptions. This is one instance where we can just directly put that equal sign. Ramsey's jumping up over here. I think they're coming really close to jumping behind me. Excuse me. So yeah, there's just so many out there. The main thing that I want to say about phrasal verbs is if you use them, you will sound more natural. That's true. You will sound like a native speaker. Now that your ears are in tune with them, you're trying to be mindful when there's a conversation about, and like you pick it up. At first, you might be confused because if you keep thinking of the direct, the literal meaning, again, the verb plus a preposition or direction, um, it's like, well, where am I supposed to go if you're thinking too much in that way? And the first time exposure to any kind of, not just a phrasal verb, but any kind of vocabulary, it can be kind of embarrassing, right? But what I want to tell students most importantly is don't put pressure on yourself to incorporate all these phrasal verbs. Because if you overdo it, if every single time you're talking and you're trying to force the phrasal verb as part of your speech, that's going to become unnatural. And like the way that you should categorize these phrasal verbs is, again, context. What type of situations are you going to be using them? What type of situations are you going to be talking? So it makes sense for a teacher, for an instructor to use the phrasal verb look over. If you're a boss, if you're a manager, if you're giving a presentation and you're telling people they need to look over something to review something, that makes sense because in that context, a conversation, a discussion about reviewing is real. It's important. It's something that you're going to do. If you are outside of those situations, I think it's really hard to think about a situation where you're going to be using the verb look over. I'm not going to be talking about looking over something with my girlfriend. Um, you're probably not going to be talking about looking over something with your friends unless you're in a study group. If you're trying to learn or practice something, um, if you're in a band playing together and you have a set list and you need to look over the score or the notes or the sheet music for a song, that makes sense. But if you don't have materials that you need to review, you're probably never going to use the phrasal verb look over, right? If you're not arguing with somebody, you're probably not going to use the phrasal verb bring up because why would you be reminding people? Like some of these phrasal verbs, just like any kind of vocabulary, there's a certain importance for you to hear it and to understand it. I would argue it's much more important for you to comprehend. If someone's using it, you don't get confused with like the literal meaning of these verbs when people are talking about direction versus using a phrasal verb. But to force yourself to have to use it, think about what environments you're talking and what do you want to be talking about. That's kind of like the main gist of what I would say. But otherwise, if you want to kind of freestyle it on your own, you're trying to piece it together, start off by taking a verb and trying to jam it with a preposition and a direction. So we had look over, look up, look back. I think look back is still much more direct. Like if, oh, I'm driving, I look back instead of focusing straight in front of me on the road. We're just still talking about the direction. But at the end of the year, when a lot of people were doing a year in review, whether it's your Spotify, your Apple, your YouTube, or at your company meeting, and we want to just take a moment to look back over 2024. That's again reviewing. To me, that's still kind of direct because you might not be turning your head to physically look back on the year, but you can kind of capture that idea, that essence. It's almost like a metaphor, right? um, Look down. Okay, so directionally we're looking down, but if you're looking down on someone else, it it's again taking that metaphorical idea where if you're looking down on somebody, that means you are above them. So does it mean that you're standing on a mountain and you're looking down and you see your friend? Okay, that's probably not what we're talking about. If you look down on somebody, that's implying that you think you're better than that person. Maybe it's because of your job, maybe it's because you have certain accolades, uh, where you went to school, and then you look down. The Ivy League people, they went to Harvard, they went to Columbia University, Stanford, and they look down on people who went to community college. That's kind of a thing. Doctors with PhDs, they look down on nurses. You don't want that to be the case, but you hear conversations, you hear that type of status thing that's happening. People who have Apple, Nike, name brand things, and someone buys their clothing from Walmart, people might look down on those people who buy clothes at Walmart. Again, I'm not telling you this is what you should be doing. This is just the reality of how people are and how they behave. And this is where cementing the idea of looking down. Okay. Looking left, looking right. I don't think there's any phrasal verbs associated with that. If you're looking left or right, that's very much just like directionally focused. Um, bring up, bring down. Okay. So if you're dealing with problematic people, hopefully you don't have friends and family like this. Um, Again, if we talk about the direct literal context, if I'm downstairs and you're upstairs and I say, hey, can you bring down the boxes with my name on it? This is just like the opposite of what we said initially. It's like you're downstairs, I'm upstairs. Can you bring up the boxes with my name on it? This is not what we're talking about. Bring up as a phrasal verb to remind. Bring down is like people who have problems, they're really negative, they're pessimistic. Like you have your own struggles, your dramas, your worries that are going on, and you deal with some other people, and they always bring you down. They always make you feel worse because they point out your flaws, or they're just in a negative mood, or they're just not any fun to be around because they keep talking about things that depress you or stress you out. That's what we're talking about bringing down. Again, bringing left, bringing right. I don't think there's any phrasal verbs associated with that. Bring over. If I'm having a party and I can't afford it, but you have a VR headset, and I say, "Oh man, can you bring your I don't know what they're called, Apple Vision Pro over? Can you bring it over?" I think that's still very kind of direct. If I say, "Hey, can you bring your VR headset?" That's fine. Can you bring over, like over to my house, is just like what the implication there is. Um, in this case, I would classify bring over not so much as a phrasal verb. Over is kind of like a filler phrase because most people, when they're learning English, they would say, well, what's the difference? Can I just say, can I bring the VR headset? Can you bring the VR headset? Yes, you do not have to say, can you bring over the VR headset? So, what's the difference? It just gives me an extra thing to say. Like, can you bring over the headset? Can you bring over the headset? Can you bring the headset? We wouldn't recommend and advise people to say in that case, but just a natural part of speech. We throw in filler could you remember to bring that VR headset? That's just how people talk. And I don't think that's an exclusive English thing. I'm pretty sure that every language does that. I know Japanese has that with ano, eto, and that type of thing. But there we go. Filler coming up again. That's the gist of what I wanted to cover. Again, on that teaching demo, I'll be giving more examples. It'll be a little bit more focused. I won't have my cats running around distracting. Um, But again, Logan, thank you so much for joining the stream. I really appreciate it. And that's going to be it for today. We hit the 15-minute mark. I won't extend this any further. Again, the future of lives and content on this channel is still up in the air, kind of dependent on how this teaching demo goes. But whether we once again go on hiatus for this channel or I start making content for a different group, I will be able to at least tell you guys that much in the weeks to come. So we'll see. We'll figure it out. Everyone else, please stay warm, enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and watch out for bird flu, I guess. So that's going to be it for me. Take care now.